Here are our world's top 10 greatest MMA fighters of all time. Number 10. Matt Hughes. The bottom spot in the rankings was competitive with many deserving contenders. In the last of Hughes' 9 fights in 2001, yes, 9 fights in 12 months, he returned to the UFC to knock out Carlos Newton with a slam to win his first UFC welterweight title. Between his 2 runs as welterweight champion, Hughes had 7 successful title defenses. In his most dominant years, Hughes picked up wins over Newton, twice, Sean Shirk, Georges St. Pierre, BJ Penn and Matt Serra, all men who at one point held UFC gold. That is a NBSP, stellar and often overlooked resume. Number 9. Conor McGregor. McGregor has been vocal on social media lately over his status as MMA's greatest of all time. While he didn't crack the top 5 on this list, there's no denying he is one of the greats. McGregor is a global superstar not only because of his ability and willingness to promote himself, but because he is a dynamic, dangerous fighter. His march to the featherweight championship was one of the most impressive stretches in UFC history, culminating in a 13-second knockout of Zozy. Adding the lightweight title with a knockout of Eddie Alvarez gave him the distinction of being the first ever fighter to simultaneously hold championships in 2 weight classes. If McGregor's resume has any weakness compared to others on the list, it is a lack of a championship legacy. While he won the featherweight and lightweight titles, he made no defenses of either champion. Number 8. Daniel Cormier. Cormier followed the McGregor path of holding 2 championships simultaneously, in his case light heavyweight and heavyweight. Cormier has toppled top fighters in both divisions across Strikeforce and UFC, defending the light heavyweight title 3 times and the heavyweight belt once. Cormier could never truly establish himself as the top light heavyweight in the world, however, losing to John Jones twice, though one was ultimately ruled a no contest after Jones failed a drug test, and his title reign was a product of Jones's failings more than anything. How Cormier's heavyweight championship rubber match with Stipe Miocic plays out will go a long way in determining his long-term legacy. Number 7. Jose Aldo. The Brazilian won 18 consecutive fights from 2006 to 2014. During that time, he established himself as the greatest featherweight ever. He won the WEC Featherweight Championship with a TKO of Mike Thomas Brown and defended the belt twice before being named UFC champ when the division was absorbed by the promotion. He made another 7 defenses of the title before running into McGregor in 2014. He would go on to lose more fights in the following years, though only against Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski, a pair of champions. A drop to the bantamweight division this past December resulted in a controversial split decision loss to Marlon Moraes, and now Aldo looks to be getting set to face Petr Yan for the now vacant bantamweight title. A late career title win in a new division would add a new dimension to Aldo's resume. Number 6. Khabib Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov has been perfect as a professional. With a 28-0 record and almost every win a dominant performance, it's hard to find much to complain about with the Eagles' resume. If there is any shortcoming, it is a lack of statement wins. Nurmagomedov's victories over McGregor, Rafael dos Anjos and Dustin Poirier are all good to borderline great, but he's still lacking marquee performance. That Nurmagomedov won the vacant belt with a win over Al Iaquinta doesn't help his overall legacy. Had Nurmagomedov's planned fight with Tony Ferguson not fallen through 5 times, he would have a second signature win to put alongside the McGregor thrashing. Keeping that all in mind, Nurmagomedov has been so dominant, and his legacy still is developing. He could be a top 5 all-time fighter by the time he hangs up the gloves. Number 5. Demetrius Johnson. Since dropping to flyweight, Johnson has rattled off a 16-1-1 record. For much of that time, Johnson was considered the top pound-for-pound fighter in the sport. After becoming the inaugural UFC flyweight champion, Johnson successfully defended the title 11 times. While fighting the best in the division, Johnson displayed unparalleled creativity in the octagon. That he was never a big draw made it easy for the UFC to part ways with Mighty Mouse after he lost the controversial split decision to Henry Cejudo. But Johnson has continued to showcase his dominance in one championship, winning their flyweight Grand Prix tournament. Number 4. Fedor Emelianenko. During Pride's heyday, Emelianenko was an unstoppable force at heavyweight. The Russian won 27 consecutive fights from 2001 to 2009, winning the Pride heavyweight title, dominating some of the best in the world, including an amazing rivalry with Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira and a massive win over Mirko Cro Cop. His aura of invincibility was eventually shattered by Fabricio Verdum in 2010. The pride method of matchmaking and never setting foot in the UFC octagon has tarnished Emelianenko's legacy for many, but there should be no denying that his incredible run in the most dangerous division in the game placed him as one of the best to ever do it in the sport. Number 3. Georges St. Pierre. GSP is the greatest welterweight of all time, having won the UFC welterweight title twice and making 9 successful title defenses. He only lost to 2 men in his career, Hughes and Serra, and made clear statements in rematches that he was the better man. His run saw him beat a murderer's row of contenders and show very few moments of weakness before retiring on top of the game after a brutal and controversial win over Johnny Hendricks. But, returning to action after 4 years out of the sport to beat Michael Bisping and win the middleweight championship added a little something extra to his all-time standing. Number 2. Anderson Silva. A 17-fight winning streak and 10 successful title defenses give Silva the kind of resume that every man at the top of this list shares. Silva was a force of nature, seemingly playing a striking game that was light years ahead of the men he faced, no matter how talented the opponent. Silva also dipped into the light heavyweight division 3 times during his peak years, knocking out James Irvin, Forrest Griffin, and Stephan Bonner. Silva also didn't just beat men, he destroyed them while doing seemingly anything he wanted from bell to bell. The end of his peak came hard and fast, but for years, Silva was the best fighter in the world. Number 1. Jon Jones. Jones has lost 1 fight in his career, a screwy disqualification to Matt Hamill, but the majority of blemishes in his career have come from his own out-of-cage mistakes. Jones should be on a run of 14 or more consecutive title defenses, but he has been stripped of titles and had title wins overturned because of legal problems and failed drug tests. But in the cage, Jones is as brilliant a fighter as the sport has ever seen. Beyond his top-shelf wrestling or his dynamic striking, Jones is capable of making in-fight calculations and adjustments better than anyone in the sport. His position on the list also benefits from not having seen his peak end in the ways a Silva or Fedor's late career losses have colored things. But, even if he never wins another fight, Jones has proven himself the best MMA has ever seen.